Hello there, fellow teachers! Welcome back to my channel. This time, ang content natin ay tungkol sa Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads or the PPSSH. But before that, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel for more updates. If you are aiming to take the principal's exam, please start with this video. Okay, let us start with the video presentation. The Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads or the PPSSH. PPSSH is developed through partnerships between and among DepEd, BHROD, NIAP, and RCTQ. Okay, makikita natin sa caricature sa ating screen na pwede nating i-relate as school heads. We are school heads na maraming role na ginagawa. We have the role as instructional leader. We have the administrative leader and other roles assigned to us. We become accountants, we become engineers, and so on. So this video we will have this session 1. Okay, the familiarization with the PPSSH or the general overview. The session 2 will be discussed on another video presentation. So let us start with the session 1. The session 1 includes the background, the rationale, the research basis, and development and validation processes of PPSSH, since it will affirm that the standards is a product of a robust and rigorous research work. It is indeed important to discuss. Let us start with the background and the rationale. The World Bank report, Philippines Economic Update, rapid technological advances are increasingly making human capital, knowledge, skills, and good health essential to a country's economic success. Human capital is a critical driver of both economic growth and inclusion. This World Bank report was published in April 2019. Also, in 2019, the Department of Education is already nearing the 1 millionth mark in terms of number of employees, with more than 800,000 of them being teachers. Next is the key policy levers for human capital. There are a large number of initiatives in the Philippines focused on boosting human capital development. Specific initiatives include the Philippines Plan of Action for Nutrition, the new Philippines Professional Standards for Teachers, the new Universal Healthcare Coverage Law, and ongoing efforts to improve the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. The principal challenge facing policymakers is the effective implementation of this initiative. To mention that PPST has been acknowledged by the World Bank itself, it is a significant policy reform in the Philippines. PPST is a significant policy adopted by the DepEd, and that all must continue in ensuring its effective implementation in the field. Okay, there is a need to complement the standards for teachers. We have DepEd Order number 42 series of 2017, National Adoption and Implementation of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. While teachers are guided by PPST, other support systems must also be in place to complement and support teacher quality. There is a need to review and enhance or redevelop the current NCBSSH or the National Competency-Based Standards for School Heads to address career progression and 21st century thinking. The changes in the landscape of the Philippine education system also prompted the review of standards for school heads. The old framework, or the NCBSSH, is good during its time, but because of the recent major developments in the education system, such as 21st century thinking, career progression, and the development of PPST, there was a prompt to review and enhance NCBSSH. The National Competency-Based Standards for School Heads. Aside from having no career stages, the NCBSSH also needs to undergo review to know if there are indicators that go against recent research. The indicator on multitasking serves an example. You can see on the screen, observes and applies multitasking in giving assignments. That's from the NCBSSH. Research shows that in addition to slowing you down, multitasking lowers your IQ. A study at the University of London found that participants who multitask during cognitive tasks experience IQ score declines that were similar to what they expect if they had smoked marijuana or stayed up all night. IQ drops off 15 points for multitasking men, lower their scores to the average range of an 8-year-old child. Developing the standards. OECD, they have this quote: school leadership plays a key role in improving school outcomes by influencing the motivations and capacities of teachers, as well as the school climate and environment. Do you agree with this? Do you agree with the quote? Okay, it is indeed important for school leadership to complement teaching and learning quality. Why professional standards? Internationally, school leadership quality is articulated in professional standards for school heads. The PPSSH draws from the principle of effective leadership practices both locally and internationally in order to provide a public statement that sets out what school heads are expected to know, understand, and do to succeed in their work. A common language on high-impact school leadership, and a picture of quality school head, learning, leadership, and management. PPSSH provides common understanding among school heads. Okay, we have the development design. The PPSSH is a product of a rigorous and robust quantitative and qualitative research and development work. International and local documents such as debit orders, media discourse, and other international leadership frameworks that covered more than 70 jurisdictions were reviewed and analyzed also. Stakeholders across the country played a crucial role from consultation to the validation. The psychometric studies of indicators use the Rush model of quantitative data and in vivo for the qualitative data. Okay, we have this advisory board. The advisory board includes DepEd regional directors, external stakeholders, and the central office. We have the co-chair, Jennifer E. Lopez, the OIC Director 3 of BHROD, and John Arnold S. Siena, Director 4, NIAP. Members, Dr. Arturo B. Bayucot, Regional Director, Region 10, Director Wilfredo A. Cabral, Regional Director, Region 4A, Dr. Evelyn C. Cruzada, former Assistant Secretary, Office of the Cabinet Secretary, former President Leyte Normal University, Dr. Juliet A. Herota, former Regional Director, Region 7, Dr. Maria Gemma M. Ledesma, Regional Director, Region 6, Professor Juan Miguel Luz, Asian Institute of Management, Maria Lourdes D. Pantoja, former Director for BHROD, Dr. Gilbert T. Sadsad, Regional Director, Region 5, Dr. Diosdado M. San Antonio, Undersecretary, Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Ramir B. Oitico, Regional Director, Region 8. Okay, the advisory board provides fresh perspectives on various matters, directing thinking to issues that may not be on the radar of the research team, ensuring that the work is relevant to DepEd and the wider school community. The advisory board helped the technical working group and the research team in the development of PPSSH. We have here the members of the technical working group. We have Dr. Fillmore R. Caballero, handling a secondary school in a city as a principal for during the development phase of the standards, is a CID chief. Dr. Osmania has a long experience of being a school head and now she is an OIC ASDS. Ms. Argamosa, handling an elementary school in rural area, is a principal 1. Dr. Gananchal is a school head from the Visayas. Dr. Ebisa is a school head from Mindanao. Their respective contexts provide lively discussions in the development of PPSSH. So we have the activities conducted, advisory board meetings, and the TWG meetings. The development of PPSSH is an iterative process of writing and seeking feedback. The work of the TWG spanned for a year. Along the way, the TWG reports to the advisory board, seeks feedback from them, integrates their comments in their work. The regional directors collectively endorse the standards for adoption. This means that PPSSH received full support across DepEd governance levels. The national organizations of school heads were invited in the course of development work and that they were emphatic in agreeing to champion the standards in the field. We have the PESFA, NAPSI, PSDSA, and SGOD COP were part of the reviewers. Thousands of stakeholders, also including learners, parents, teachers, school head supervisors, DepEd regional directors, and other educators across all regions. So we have the consultation with stakeholders, October 30 to 31, 2018. roundtable discussions with 30 school heads and 30 supervisors from across regions. November 20 to 2018, FGD with students, parents, teachers, school heads, and supervisors in Cebu. December 12 to 14, 2018, brainstorming with selected school heads and supervisors. Next, January 14 to 15, 2019, brainstorming with selected school heads and supervisors. September 17 to 18, 2019, review with selected school heads and supervisors, including presidents of national organizations. The first consultation of school heads and supervisors had to use separate halls to contain a more than lively discussions. In the process, the PPSSH, along with PPSS, or the standards for supervisors, provided a common understanding among school heads of their work, hence creating a synergy in the succeeding consultations. Stakeholders included supervisors, school heads, teachers, parents, students, who also provided valuable input, and presidents of national organizations including NAPSI and FESPA. Validating the standards. The philosophical basis for validation. A well-designed psychometric study with significant input from school heads is the best way to forward in the development of professional standards. A targeted validation study helps ensure the relevance of the standards to principals' work. Professional standards that captures principals' voices and addresses their views and needs can help alleviate most concerns about professional standards. The PPSSH was able to capture the voice of school heads across the country, having the document undergone 3 stages of validation. First validation across regions last February 2019. The first validation was done through a survey, and that it was able to provide a pattern in how school heads responded to the initial draft of PPSSH. The results of validation helped the TWG, or the Technical Working Group, and the research team progress in its development. Second and third validation across regions, July to August 2019. The second validation was done through a survey, quantitative, and the third validation was done through a focus group workshop, or the qualitative. Okay, we have the issues addressed in validation, relevance to school heads in the Philippines, and the requirements of the education system, difficulty to confirm stages and career levels, appropriateness of indicators for career levels, preparedness and development priority to identify professional support needs, familiarization and professional acceptance so as to enhance ownership of the professional standards, implementation and resourcing priorities for schools, districts, division, and overall DepEd system, quality assurance for quality, school effectiveness, and system accountability. Next is the reliability summary. The PPSSH received excellent reliability characteristics that school heads across the country agree that what the document is telling is indeed their work. Note that reliability measure above 0.7 are considered acceptable. Consideration for national implementation. The implementation of career-based professional standards for school leaders is a significant national reform that requires change from the entire profession. A guiding fundamental principle of implementation is utility for school leaders and DepEd. The implementation of school leadership will not take place in isolation, but in distinct, well-established jurisdictional context with developing approaches to an understanding of school leadership quality. The DepEd supports the implementation of PPSSH by aligning its relevant HR systems to the document. A systems approach stresses the interactive nature and interdependence of external and internal factors in an organization or activity. In the Philippines, the PPST is the common core that is capable to be the basis of a system that can link between numerous elements. The same with the case of the PPSSH. The PPSSH does not take place in isolation, but it is linked with other elements in the Philippine education system. Aligning between PPST, PPSSH, and PPSS. Okay, for the PPSST framework for teacher quality, the PPSSH is the school head quality ensuring people and school effectiveness. And the PPSS is the supervisor quality supporting organizational effectiveness and implementation and management of curriculum. The system approach discussed in the previous slide are all initiatives to strengthen the human capital in the Department of Education. Okay, so what can you see on the caricature? We have the word no thanks, we are too busy. Okay, nakita natin na yung wheels or yung tire ng kanilang ginagamit is square. Binibigyan sila ng circle. Sabi nila no thanks. So we are too busy. Okay? So yung circular na wheels represents the PPSSH. And indeed, fellow school heads, are we willing to accept the PPSSH? Indeed, change is the only constant word or thing in this world. So we have no choice but to accept the will. It's the will of the wind. So at this time, think about the discussion. Feel free to ask questions, give comments, say or present, share your thoughts with me. Thank you very much for listening. This has been the session 1 of the Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads. See you in the next video presentation for the session 2. We have the familiarization with the PPSSH, career stages, domains, strands, and indicators. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have learned something, fellow school heads, for those who are aiming to take the exams, and for all the teachers also, so that you will know or you will learn how the school heads work in the school and their importance. Thank you very much for listening, and mabuhay po tayo.